Determine whether we had a quorum. So it looks like all the people that are here, well, how many do we have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with Matt. Because Jim is at this point still.
Yeah, I have documentation that says Anthony Abel was the representative for the park district, for the water district. So that must mean I'm the representative for the park district. That's what I got. I don't know.
Yeah, but it doesn't,
So-
from what I understand,
Right,
it
so-
doesn't say that you were chosen, so.
Right, at this point.
So Jim
for this-
can't vote today.
So at this point, Jim, you're ineligible to vote.
That's fine. That's fine.
So, okay, so we still have a quorum, so we're good on that. So the other thing I'd like to do is, we need to have a secretary. And we need to have a secretary that is a voting member. For when we go into executive session, not everybody will be there. So we need a voting member that's willing to step up and be secretary.
I will do it for this meeting.
Okay.
Not permanent.
That's fine. Thank you, Val. So we know that Val is volunteered to be our secretary. Okay, that being said, what I'd like to do next is to have Brandy state the purpose of the MCLT. So just for the public record, once again, I know everybody knows it, but let's just make it very clear, the MCLT's role here and how that, and we'll proceed from there.
Yeah, so we are not a decision maker, we're not a voting member. Everybody's pretty clear. We were founded after the fire and obviously after the gift of the Jones sisters. So we're here to support, and then we help with community listening sessions, grant writing, fiscal stuff, community outreach, liaison with Lane County, the state, DEQ, all the things. Yeah, so we're here to support in a whole list of different ways.
Great. Okay, thank you. And just reemphasize, the McKinsey Community Land Trust is not here as a voting member. Okay, so conflicts of interest, I would like to, each one of us as your representative for whatever organization you're representing, to please state your name, your organization you're representing today, and any potential conflicts of interest that you would like to share with the group. And if you don't mind starting, I'll start, for that matter. So my name is Cliff Richardson. I am on the executive board of the McKinsey Community Land Trust. I'm also on the executive board of the McKinsey Community Track and Field. And I'm also on the executive board of the locals, helping locals. That being said, today my hat is not Oregon State University, it's the McKinsey Community Track and Field. And to my best, I will represent their interests and no other organization at this point.
My name is Chris Lavoie. I'm with McKinsey Community Partnership. And so I represent, my conflict of interest is that I would be a customer of said thing that we're talking about today, the wastewater, either through whatever we choose to do with Lane, or if the money goes to Lane County and they're giving it out in grants to put on site septic.
Yeah, I'm Lane Tompkins. I'm the superintendent of the McKinsey School District. I'm also the president of the McKinsey Community Land Trust. I don't think I have any other.
You're on this board. Partners, the Three Sisters.
Yeah. Committee.
Yeah.
It's not a board, correct? It's a committee.
It's a committee.
Do I have any other affiliation with that? No, with the two.
I have to pass because are you still going? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sure we're okay. I'm good. I'll shut up.
The list, it can't be longer than 3 pages.
Wait, you stated these conflicts, I think we understand.
Yeah.
I pass, right? Because
You can go ahead and state who you are and what
Yeah,
potential
James-
conflicts you have. I think it'd be good for the order.
James Parks, chairman of the board for the Blue River Water District, and also chairman of the board for the Blue River Park and Recreation District. And I was a representative on this committee representing the park, but without documentation, I guess I abstain.
Dana Burwell, I'm on the Three Sisters Meadow Committee. I'm also a board member with McKinsey School District. And I'm representing the guides, McKinsey River Guides. I'm a board member on their association. And locals, I think locals are about that too.
Thank you.
Oh, me already, okay. Val Rapp, Mackenzie Valley Wellness, I'm the treasurer. I was formerly the president of Mackenzie Valley Wellness when I first joined this committee, and then for continuity, even as I'm treasurer, I stayed on this committee. I'm not on the other organizations on the board, though I support.
I don't know how you
glad
escape
for all of them. Yeah, I kind of hate to say that because I'll get invitation.
John Carlisle, I'm representing the Upper McKenzie Community Center, and I'm on this committee as well.
Connie Richardson, board president for the O'Brien Memorial Library, and also on the Three Sisters Meadow Committee.
Ken?
Yeah, I'm representing the Mackenzie River Chamber of Commerce, and their appointed rep is the current president, and I'm president this year.
Very good. Online, we have a member, and that's Matt Sayre. Matt, would you wish to declare, please?
Sure. Matt Sayre, Executive Director of Collaborative EDO. We're a 501c3 nonprofit with you can't hear me?
Yeah, oh, you're good.
We're good.
You're good.
Yeah. So a large board of public and private partners. And I have no financial conflicts or other conflicts that I know of. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. So thank you all for doing that. The documentation, just a little bit of background, Brandy, we did a good search today, so thank you for that, Brandy, for that documentation of representation. Hopefully we can get Jim back in the fold.
I tried really hard.
Just so the group knows, I even called a couple of their past board members to see if there's anything they could do to, get him on for today, but it's not. So the quorum's been met. We can move forward. That's the best order of business. So for what we need to do today, we've designated a note keeper in Val, so we'll change that off. I do want to, if you'll take a look at your agenda, I would like to make a quick, with your permission, change in the agenda as it's written. I do have copies there in the middle. Down under the executive session, Three Sisters Meadow Partners, it says discussion of McKenzie School District proposal. And then also it says call to vote. I'm going to move that call to vote to after we exit the executive session so that it's an open public and open and transparent as to how the organizations vote. I think that's the proper way of doing business so that we're all on record as to how we vote as organizations. I'm open to discussion on that, but I just thought that might be the best transparent way of doing business. Any discussion on that? Or change?
Well, that's exactly how we do it with the school board.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay. Does anybody I know this is kind of an informal committee to some degree, but I would entertain a motion that we do that. For the record.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we move that call to vote and decision concerning the McKenzie School District proposal to after we exit the executive session and return to the general session. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll keep this as moving along as we can. Steve Severn will come in at some point. If the group's okay with him entering the meeting at that point, I don't know if we had any discussion on him not entering, but he is a board member, so or a committee member. So, do we have a problem with Steve entering the committee as he comes? Anybody?
No.
Okay. No. Okay. We'll see if we can catch him up or not. That may be a difficult thing to do. Okay, let's move on to McKenzie School District wastewater Three Sisters Meadow proposal. Mr. Tompkins.
Yeah, so I think you guys have been able to read over the proposal. We got sent out. Thank you for distributing it. Just kind of in a nutshell, there's, we know that they've been working to design a community waste water system at the Meadows. There's funding available. I know there was concerns on the water district's end about taking that on. There's a lot of different layers to that. This kind of came up out of the community county commissioners meeting at the school when all the commissioners were just kind of like, hey, like why aren't we doing this? Why can't we do this? And there was a few hiccups in that. There wasn't, you have to have a permit holder and you have to have an actual use. So I was kind of kicked it around, and the thought was, well, the district's septic systems are getting in there of age. We have the oldest one that's from the 60s. We have the youngest one's 2002. So that could be a use for that site. We already hold a DEQ permit, so we could take that on, and with the hopes of keeping this investment in the community, the board agreed to put this proposal together. So essentially, the proposal asks the committee to recommend to the McKenzie River Trust the transfer of the property to the McKenzie School District. We would work with Lane County to construct the system. This body would become a board advisory committee, so that would be appointed by the school board to advise the school board about the property. So a lot of the decision making will continue the same way, but then when you ask, like, what are we, like you were talking about earlier, like this would be an actual board advisory committee, and with that would come public meeting rules that we'd have to follow. So that could be good for transparency's sake. And then just kind of, I think the last part is just kind of keeping that collaborative development ideas going. So we'd be working with the committee to find ways to best meet the intent of the Joneses donation. So I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't know if I'll answer some questions via emails or any other questions. So call this out. There's a lot of nuance to it, and it's hard to capture it in the original draft of the proposal I had was 8 pages, and that wasn't really tenable. So yeah.
It has just to do with timing and the timeline. Are there still the parameters about when the money is available, when the work has to be finished?
Yeah, the work has to be completed by September 26th.
So is that doable with the timeline to transfer the property?
According to the county and their engineers are working with, it's doable, but that window is really closing. The other kind of time constraint is this funding, the state wants to call it back because it's ARPA money, and that has that expiration date, and the state wants to make sure it gets used to its full extent. They're not returning money to the federal government, so that's the other kind of timeline. The county was supposed to tell the state by the first what funds would be left over. We've got a little bit of an extension as we figure this out.
Any other questions for Lane? Now's a good time. This is the time to do that. Jim?
Have you ever put together anything, pros and cons, like both sides? I haven't seen that. I'm just curious if you looked at it.
I haven't produced any format for distribution, but we've gone through and talked
Okay,
about
Steve.
the benefits and the costs. The big one is, the financial sustainability that you brought up. It's not going to be the same cost that we would have to maintain our regular septic field. It's not here.
Right, because you're paying $2,000 annually now, and it would go up to $19,000 annually.
Yeah, we did some kind of calculations, went back and looked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's closer to, I think last year we spent right around 8,000.
So it's considerably less. Almost
Yeah,
half.
and then the cost to operate, I think the newest number was about 16,000 a year.
So operate.
difference, yeah.
On top of your 8,000 of maintenance fees? Is that right?
No, that 16 would be the operating of the system right now.
What's the 8,000? That's
Our current maintenance, and then also.
okay. So your current cost is 8,000, not 2,000.
No, that was just the permit, the DEQ permit.
That you have to pay annually.
Yeah, so we went back and
Okay.
looked for some more.
Okay, I'm just trying to fill the gaps. So.
Totally.
So what I'm hearing is about $700 a month more than what you're already paying is what it would cost to facilitate this right now.
I haven't divided that by 12, but.
The ballpark is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about 60.
So would it be the same infrastructure that we've been talking about for the last year at these meetings? Basically the plan that they came up with?
Yeah.
And so that would be serving who besides the school or just the school?
Right out of the school, and anybody else that would hook up would have to be managed through an HOA type agreement according to DEQ.
So any development that came later on the site would be just a separate entity that?
Yeah, we could tie into it for,
Okay.
Who would the school, Lane, you say an HOA agreement, who would the school be looking at to partner with in those regards? On an HOA agreement?
whoever ends up developing and wanting to use the.
But what about other people outside the Three Sisters Meadow area?
I don't know if we had that discussion, you know, how far, I think right now, just preserving, having that option is good. But I do think like priority should be to that site. You know, if it became a thing where, you know, a few years down the road, you know, this group wasn't able to come up with what to do, and it wasn't fiscally responsible to continue, like it would make sense to find a way to recoup some of the outlay, but.
I know you stated in your proposal how much of the system the school would be using if they signed up. Could you just state that again, and how much is left and then what could be put on it?
Yeah.
Is what's left?
So currently, our DEQ permit, flow permit's like 5,700 and change per day. So it would leave about a little over 4,000 of that 10,000. I think when I did the napkin math, it was like that would be a 35-room hotel or 9 houses or like 14 apartments. So if you've got like at a factory, you could have a factory that had 100 workers per shift. And it's all tied into the ORS flow rates and requirements.
And each one of those things that you mentioned is a this or this or this. It's not all of it.
I was just trying to go
Just
with
as
examples.
clarification.
4,000 could be used.
Cool.
It's on the last paragraph of this proposal.
Please state.
So I have another question. So is that considering your cafeteria as well?
Yeah,
Because-
that's all.
Okay,
That's our original permit.
Okay.
That's all that, like, we're built out.
Because I know in the original plan with the water district, they said 10,000 gallons per day. But once you add one restaurant, it took 10 homes off. I'm just.
Yeah. Or that we have.
Okay, so that's included in that.
Yeah, we have an on-site, like,
Okay.
kind of grease trap
Right.
arrangement too, so.
Go ahead.
What would the school's plan be for further development aside from just the water treatment thing? Because as we talked about in other meetings, there's real estate to do a lot of different things. Would that be the responsibility of the school moving forward, or is that still a group community project, or is it this committee's decision to still figure that piece out?
Yeah, that's how I see it, as this group would continue to voice for the community what would go there. So essentially the school would just be holding the property minus the wastewater portion like the McKinsey River Trust is doing currently.
Okay.
You know, I don't think there's no plans to build like Richardson Stadium or anything.
Well, wait a minute, you already looked at the notes.
Beautiful plans, beautiful design.
Don't, I called it the Eagle Dome.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be, up to, but then, there would be a little bit of making sure due diligence of maintaining the property, making sure it's kept mowed, especially before fire season, and accessible. The wastewater drain field would essentially just become another, kind of open space park. So you could do, I know we want to do the cross-country trail, you could do the cross-country trail on that. I don't think you could do anything much heavier than just kind of that sort of use, but it could be a community asset, and that was one of the things that the neighbors were really into.
If the land was just given or traded to hands, or however technically that works, and are you guys certain that the money that's available is still enough to cover what it's gonna cost in the next year to build this project?
The county's pretty sure they have enough money to build out.
Pretty sure. That's my next question. So this might be for Matt. How much money is available that you know of for this, to build out this system?
Yeah, good question. Just for the record, I think everybody knows me, Matt McCray, I'm the disaster recovery manager working for Lane County. In round numbers, it's about $2.5 million that remain. I'll get the exact number and drop it in the chat just so y'all have it.
Yeah, I keep hearing conflicting numbers of,
I think I might have looked at the design.
well, it's still out there.
Yep.
I get conflicting numbers of 3.5 million, and when I was in the wastewater meetings, we were pitched that there was only $2 million left to build this out. It wasn't enough money to build it out, and that HDR was going to supply the water district with a plan on paper or digital that we could refer to later when we got grant money to build the system out completely. So now I'm hearing 3.5 million, and you say 2.5 million, and I'm just wondering where that extra money came from, because when I do the math, it still comes out to 2 million. And what I'm afraid of happening is someone came up with some money because someone else lowballed another contract somewhere else, and now they got extra money. And then when we get done building the water system out, there won't be enough money to complete that. And then it'll be up to the water district to pay the balance of the new water system. And then we'll have to put that on the customers. That's my fear. I just want to get that out. And
Yeah,
I think.
I might provide a little bit of clarification if I can. So this pot of funds is, it's ARPA funds, right, that come from the federal government and then to the state. It's coming to us through Biz Oregon. The total amount is $15.5 million, and it's for water and wastewater activities across the entire fire-affected area. As I think you're all aware, the large majority of these dollars is going directly to rebuilding the drinking water system in Blue River. But we're also using a portion of these funds to provide grants directly to property owners for sanitary systems on individual properties to repair or replace systems. And you're all familiar, I think, with the EWEB program that is doing that. So we are providing funds to EWEB, and they're distributing these funds to help pay for sanitary repairs and replacements in the fire-affected area. And I think where some of the differences in numbers comes from is that we've seen a pretty hefty desire or demand for that program recently, and so we worked with Biz Oregon and the rest of the team here at Lane County to put in a proposal to move an additional $1 million from the balance that was remaining towards the EWIP program, because there's been, like I said, a pretty heavy demand and people are making use of those dollars. So there's 2.5 remaining. There continues to be strong demand, and I'll just want to make sure for everybody's awareness that if there's a decision not to go forward with the community system, we'll be looking to transfer an additional $1 million over to that EWEB grant program. Our assessment with the team at EWEB is that there's a lot of room there still to provide grants for individuals, both residential and commercial. So that would be the backup plan for $1 million if you decide not to go down the road on the community system. We're holding back that request to Biz Oregon until after you all have made a decision. We're certainly eager to see that decision made quickly so we can move one way or another, but we're also here to support whatever the community wants to do. So just listening in and let me know if there are other questions I can help with.
Matt, I've got one question quickly. You said fire-affected area. What's the definition of the fire-affected area?
Right now, all of these dollars are being used within the Holiday Farm fire footprint. So we haven't asked for permission from Biz Oregon to use these dollars outside the footprint.
Yeah, I know that was a question that came up sometime earlier, that there was some discussion about possibly moving some funds down to Harmony Strait Park because of the language.
Yep. That proposal was floated and has since been canceled.
Okay.
I got a question for you, Matt. Do we have enough money in that fund to take care of requests that are already made, or
Yes.
is this conflicting? Because I know I have a couple applications, and again, I expressed there's a conflict potentially. Is there gonna be the ability to do the stuff downtown that's outside of Three Sisters with what we have budgeted, or is this gonna, by funding this, does that stop that from happening?
No, so there is a queue of projects that are, have applications in that are ready to go, and, so it gets a little bit confusing because we just transferred an additional 1 million to that HUIT program, but we haven't actually got everything signed yet for those dollars to flow. And that's what I think you're referring to, Chris, that there's a waiting list of people that are ready to go forward as soon as those dollars are available, and that's already in motion. And then what I'm talking about is a second $1 million addition if this group decides not to do a community system. Does that make sense?
It does. You know, for me, it's important that we get septic availability for all of Blue River, especially in the downtown and the flex zones, not just Three Sisters, to make sure that we have a vibrant, growing community again. And if we only do Three Sisters and this was to preclude that, I'd be have a hard time doing that. It's nice to know that we do have funds, so this will not be either or. So thank you, Matt, for the information.
I got one more. So you say there's 2.5 million remaining. I was told, you know, again, by the county, Robert Woodard, as a project manager for the wastewater project, he said there was 2 million remaining several months ago before we ended that project, basically, before the water district pulled out. And that wasn't enough to build the system out. So my concern would be that there's 2.5 million here to do the school in the same spot where the water district was slated to do it. Is there going to be enough money in that 2.5 million to build this entire system out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a question for Rob and or the team that is doing that planning work. So you all are aware that the engineering team that Lane County has hired for the wastewater system is completing a full set of construction documents. And those should be finished shortly if they're not finished already. You may know, Jim, whether they're ready to go, but if they're not ready, they're very close. It would be fairly straightforward to provide an estimate to construct the full system or a partial system. As you're all aware, this is a modular system, so you can build it in increments. You don't have to build up the whole thing. It's possible, Jim, and I don't know, it's possible that he was talking about this cost to build the whole thing, and maybe there's not enough money for that. I think it'd be really important for us to, if this group decides to move forward on a community system, to get an estimate to construct the size of system that is being proposed to make sure there's sufficient funds there.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
On Monday, in Monday's Woodard's wastewater meeting, he said the design should be done in January.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Dan, the designer, was on that call as well.
So the same
Well,
design,
and given the current design, should be able to get a reasonable estimate, given the state of the design as it is. It doesn't usually have to be 100% design over to get something against
there's
that.
somewhere there.
So just to keep the timing moving, just so we know where we're at, we're at 3:30 roughly. So, I mean, these are good questions. I don't want to stop them, but I just want to make sure that we still understand we're at 3:30. And we have we can go to probably 6, I don't know, if we can get away
Till
with
6.
that. We are scheduled for meetings. We'd be stepping on the part.
That's okay.
So,
6 o'clock or
We're good till
something.
6.
I
Yeah.
have 2 points of information to add that I think are helpful. One is that they do not have to build the entire thing. They do, if they're short on funds, they can build it up to, because it's scalable, they could drop it back a little bit and do a little bit less capacity that could be added later. So that would help make sure that they're in budget if it were managed appropriately, from what I understand, talking with them directly. And secondly is that the estimated amount to operate annually is based on paying somebody full price to do something like that. There is definitely the opportunity to do some different things where you could bring that cost down. And there is a possibility that we can get somebody locally to start the certification process, and where it won't cost as much. But that's the more complicated. The point is we're not necessarily stuck with hard costs that are exactly that or more. There is the possibility to get a little cheaper.
Let me offer a little bit as well, some due diligence that I've been doing since the school board meeting on Friday. when they were asking about what grant dollars are left at MRT's. McKenzie River Trust had 2 grants that were funding them to own and manage the property. And I had an estimate in my mind what it was, but I had clarity from their accountant as of this morning that there's $64,000 left in those 2 grants right now. And whoever would be, the next owner of the property, those dollars would go to that owner. If it's like a nonprofit or a special district. Now, if that ended up being a private entity, I think that's probably worth talking about. But $64,000 is what MRT has left to own and manage the property. And Joe has shared that would go with the property to the next owner, anticipating it.
And Brandy, those are unrestricted funds?
So those are to manage the property, own the property. There were 2 grants actually that I wrote back in the day when I was wearing my MRT hat at the beginning of all of this. And so it's Community Rebuilding Fund and Ford Family Foundation. And so as long as it's community benefit focused and not for private, I think that might be where it gets squishy. So that was some information the school board specifically asked for too, and I want to give that update. I did also, for the record, find out when the next McKenzie River Trust board meetings are. December 4th and January 22nd are the 2 next board meetings, knowing that if this group moved this forward, if the school moved it forward, MRT's board is going to have that consideration too, to make sure everything aligns with the original intent of the donor. So December 4th, January 22nd.
Other questions, Steve?
Yeah, I have quite a few questions, only because we've only had 2 days to do this, and all my information's come from hearsay. So I haven't sat down and had the time to go over this. And how much property are you asking does they want to dedicate to the septic system? How much of the property?
You want to look at the design there? That's
Acreage.
I can't give it to you.
I did hear at one point, and I think.
Well, okay. Nobody has an exact number.
No, it's.
All you have is this part right here.
Yep, and so you can it'd be rough estimate.
TPG Architects and Planners, a very professional organization.
I understand that, but you're asking us to vote on something you don't know
I'm not
exactly. Okay, whoever. I'm not holding it against you.
I just have information.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was in one of these committee meetings and we had a map that showed the drain fields and the 15, 16 acres. And I'm looking at the map and it doesn't match the one that's on the screen. And the designer, the architect says, well, I have an updated one. So it's sketchy. I'm just saying.
Essentially, it's.
I want you to understand, I'm not against it.
It's changing all the time.
It's essentially this part.
No, I understand.
But it changes all the
I
time.
understand it's this
Go
part.
ahead,
but I'm
Steve.
going-
No, I don't have the acreage count.
No, nobody has the acreage?
Well, when this came about, there were 2 or 3 different
Well, I know,
potential
but you-
systems, and they took up different.
Rob
amounts of real
Woodard and
estate.
everybody who's done all these meetings and no one can give me how much acreage it's gonna
You
take.
come in and you haven't even read any of the documents.
Excuse me, no, Lane, let's stop it right there. Lane, excuse me. He has a right to ask the question. So, I mean, at this point, we'll have to say, no, we don't have an acre.
And that's fine.
Leave it at that.
I'm just, you're asking, you called me 2 days
Yeah.
ahead of time and asked me to vote on something that's,
So it's a fair question. What's your next question, Steve?
what exactly are the stipulations of the grant? It has to be done by September 2026, done completely?
Invoices paid,
By December.
And,
right?
and you're not gonna have the, anything drafted until January? Is that what you just said?
They have 95%.
You're not gonna have the exact, what you're gonna do till January? Is that what you told me that?
I just shared that in the Lane County's Rob Woodard wastewater meeting,
Yeah.
his monthly meeting on Monday, he shared out that the designers of the system will be done in January. The design will be done in January. So that was just an update I'm passing on from that.
Okay, so we're gonna say that.
That's 100% design, so you have construction documents at that point. So the design's already fairly well, it's like 80% right now. That's just the construction documents.
Thanks,
So
Matt.
You got January. All right.
Another little caveat, and because there's rarely a monthly wastewater meeting I haven't been in the last 3 years. Lane is almost probably right in there too. And there are a lot of different visuals that have been shared over time, and it's going back to the fact that this is a modular system. Sometimes it showed a smaller footprint, sometimes it showed at a larger footprint with more capacity or everything in between. But essentially, you know, that design by DBG shows kind of the original system with the potential for expansion, you know, further, I don't know if we consider that south, but further towards the highway there, where it's open.
Towards the highway?
Yeah, down below.
So there's never been a definition of the maximum size
It's over all the.
in acreage?
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
tell you off of my top.
So
I know it's
I'm sure it
acceptable.
is, I'm sure it is.
So to answer that, Ken, I was just glancing through the report from PBG here, and I didn't see it anywhere in here.
Yeah.
Not to say
So you can't answer it because no one's
somebody
been
hasn't
determined.
done that. I would assume somebody has, perhaps DEQ or somebody.
The designer.
We don't have it available to you.
Yeah,
That's
Lane
fine.
County would have it, I just.
So what's your next question, Steve?
Okay, September, everything has to be paid. All right, okay.
Has to be done and invoices paid by December.
Well, that means basically you gotta complete it.
Yeah, you gotta complete it.
Unless you're paying somebody that.
You
ahead
can
of
finish
time.
up the paper.
So Matt, would you address that? Because that's something you can address if you would, please. Matt?
Oh, we can't hear you,
great.
Matt.
That,
We're not hearing you.
You
You're-
got some important stuff happening though.
Someone's voting that we like it better.
All the work on site needs to be completed by September.
Okay, and
So
you're gonna have
there's time
documents,
to get all the invoices and everything wrapped up by the end of the calendar year.
and the documents are gonna be completed in January, so you can say January 1st.
So that's 8 months.
Construction documents.
And then, right, the construction documents. And how long will it take to get it approved by the DEQ and the county of Lane? Do you estimate?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I know that the process by which Homes for Good got a permit from from DEQ would be instructive. It would be helpful to look at their process for getting that permit under the 3 basin rule.
Okay, well, I'm just,
I don't know.
I'm a contractor. I do construction, I do development. We're starting in January with documents that are not approved. They have to get approved by the DEQ, I believe, and they also have to get approved by Lane County, right? Sanitarian?
Yeah, and I would say the good thing here, I totally take your point, Steve. The good thing is that DEQ has been paying attention to this project from day one. They're the ones that ordered the hydrologic testing, right? So I just want to say, you're not starting from scratch in terms of that permit.
No.
I think that's good, but I take your point.
I understand
Yeah.
that. People go on vacation for 2 weeks and your permit sits on the table. I understand how it works.
Well, Steve wants to continue with his timeline. You were.
Right, so, okay, so let's be generous and say that it's January 1st, February, March 1st. We have everything approved, ready to go out for bid. Okay? It's gonna take you at least 30 days to bid it. You're in April 1st. Best case scenario. So you got April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months, and you're gonna have the system completed, everything dug up to the school in 6 months. Is what you're telling me. You can do that.
Go ahead, Matt, if you would.
I'm not asserting that that can be done. I mean, that is the timeline that we're working on.
Go ahead, finish, Steve. Go ahead, Matt. Finish your view.
Yeah, no, that's all. I'm not claiming that can't be done. I mean, it would be up to the people who know this project better and a contractor. Like, I don't know what the construction looks like. I don't know how long it takes to install the system, so I don't know 6 months.
No, I understand that. I'm not blaming anybody or anything else. What happens if you don't complete it by the end of that time?
I don't know. That's a good question that we should make sure we have an understanding of.
I want you to understand, I'm not trying to be difficult. I am just looking at a realistic timeline of what's going on. And I and this is kind of why the water board bailed, and that's why last time we voted, we kind of go, we don't see it, you know, and I'll tell you what I'm willing to do is postpone this vote for 2 weeks and get all that information and vote again. Right now I can't, so I'm just.
But we can talk about that later,
Okay,
Steve.
but
Do
I'm
you have
just
another
saying-
question for the group?
Oh, I have a lot more, but I think that's okay.
I just want to make a comment on Steve.
Yeah.
Everybody may not be aware, Steve has a long career and background in contracting and construction management, so your estimates on timeline have the weight of a lot of experience behind them. And your experience, you were saying this is a best case scenario. Isn't it quite common that there are some delays at times?
I'm not trying to say no, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
can we do it? I want what's for the community.
Steve's questions are based on a lot of,
So, I mean, I really believe that those questions need to be answered, that's all.
yeah.
John, you had a comment?
Well, a really good question to get answered would be, what happens if they don't finish? If anybody decides to do anything, it still has to be done if it's with that money by the end of September. What happens? What are the penalties if we don't get it? Is it reimbursable funds or is it money and then do the work? Like, right? Because when we were, as a community center, when we were working with USDA, we had to move forward to get the work done, but they couldn't reimburse us for work we had already done. And so that money was just moot at that point. And so those are things, because my understanding's always been the time parameter, how much, working backwards from the clock, ticking, that's always been the issue, and that clock has just kept ticking. And this sounds like a Hail Mary last ditch effort to keep the money in the community, but that clock is still ticking. And like Steve was just saying, if everything lined, if all the stars aligned and everybody got their job done immediately, it would still be January before the appropriate parties could have the paperwork to give to the county. And is there a contractor lined up, dialed in, ready to start pouring concrete or whatever, right? And so that's always been like how, that sounds like a 2-year project, not a 9-month project, to me, in my opinion.
And one thing that's not in Steve's timeline back at the beginning of it is how long it might take if the group, if it was decided to transfer ownership to the school district, how long might that process take? And Mackenzie River Trust has a lot of experience. They have transferred ownership to national forests, to tribes of some other parcels of property. So they probably have some experience in this, and they're not here. But how long, I imagine that takes a little bit of time to work out those details. I don't know, from a nonprofit to a school district, I don't know legally.
Yeah, and along that same line, Mike, I guess, wouldn't the district have to go out to the district patrons and put this to a vote? Or can the school board itself make this kind of this big a decision that puts the school district in this kind of a liability potentially? Or wouldn't you have to go to the district and have a public vote on that?
I don't think I have a vote. I know the board wants to have another meeting for public comment and then form.
But I know the board, in discussion at the board the other night, that question was brought up by one of your board members, is would we have to go out to the public?
Yeah, I don't believe they would have to go out to conduct business.
And then the other thing, another question before I forget it, is you mentioned this group would become a committee of approval. So legally, who would be making the decisions on Three Sisters Meadow? Would we be just approving something to the district, and then the elected officials are the ones that are making those decisions, or are we actually, as a committee, because right now, the way it stands, we're the ones making the decisions for the community, right?
Who makes the final decision on what happens with the property?
We do. At this point, we decide who's going to make that decision for the community.
So the Mackenzie River Trust is going to have to do a whole other vote.
Yeah.
Currently, the Mackenzie River Trust has been excellent to work with, and it's given us free reign, but would the school district do that?
I believe that would be the intent.
The trust, there's a difference.
Thing, we didn't say, yeah, we want the property. Our proposal was to bring it to you and it was more classed in the thing that we're saving $2.5 million of of community money that's gonna go away.
Right.
I mean, it's literally.
Well, we just found out it's not gonna go
If
away
we
with the
don't-
community though.
Well,
Over 1.5 million.
maybe not, but we're not gonna get that land developed until we have something built on it, or unless the school takes it over. Personally, I don't like the idea of the school taking it over. I'm adding a whole bunch more work on Lane, and it's committing funds that, you know, we're gonna be real tight on next year. But when we look at the big picture, if we don't do something, we're gonna lose that money.
So let's hold those thoughts if we can, and just because we need to go to the executive session and share out on some of those. But if there's any other questions for Lane, considering his proposal, or Matt, who's here from the county, I know Matt's got a busy schedule yet ahead of him probably this evening, but, so let's share those questions out and then we can.
Okay, I've got one over here.
Yes.
Thinking as a former school board member, what I've heard here today is a little bit different than what I heard at the meeting. My understanding was there's about a half a dozen septic systems that we don't know the condition of on the property, and this is a possible fix for that situation. But what I heard today is the EWEB wastewater program could pay for taking care of their septic systems. Why would the school district take on this additional responsibility for buying and managing that property? If I was on the board, that would be my question.
Yeah, I think like since like the 70s, we've known like the limiting thing, stopping Blue River from any sort of growth, is the lack of a wastewater system. And so this is an attempt to try to preserve that type of system for the future community use. You know, like full transparency, we would have enough room if we wanted to replace, you know, our traditional drain fields on the property. So it's not necessarily like there's actively failing systems, but in order to hold the permit, there needed to be use, and it seemed to be able to take care of two issues. I just know there's not going to be this type of money to come in for a community system in this community in our lifetimes. So this is an attempt.
Lane, I think his point's well taken, Ken's point is well taken, kind of along the same lines I'm thinking myself is, if you have other potential funds to do your septic improvements when they're needed, because right now I've got a system that's almost 40 years old and it's great. And there's no reason for me to think about having to improve it when it doesn't need to be improved. And I think your school's in the same situation perhaps. You have different levels of those improvements that may or may not be necessary. But as long as you're doing the due diligence of pumping and maintenance and all that sort of thing, septic systems, unless you get a distribution box, my dad helped put these in, I did too.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit of background. Drain fields can get plugged up, we know that, but then you replace a drain field.
It's not
If you
necessarily
have opportunity financially in other regards like this, that Matt shared with us today, why would the district put itself at liability to go out just for the good of the order of the community? And that, as a business sense, that doesn't make sense for the school district.
Oh, absolutely it does.
In what way?
The more capacity to add jobs, homes, puts butts in our seats. And if we don't do something, there's not a whole lot of places for kids and families to live up here, or for places for people with kids to work. And so keeping that option open provides hope. So that is a smart business.
Yeah, go ahead,
Thanks,
Matt.
Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just want to quickly weigh in on the possibility of using these dollars through a different route to make repairs or replacements of the septic system of the school. The only reason that a project of this scale works with this short timeline is the design work is done. And I don't know how complex the septic systems are at the school, but to the extent that there's any meaningful amount of design work to be done that would start, tomorrow in order to get something moving, I don't know that there's enough time to do the design work to make repairs or replacements of the system on the school campus before September. It's just a question that I would flag. Those grants are going towards residents and commercial properties that are pretty conventional, small scale systems and don't take a lot of design work.
Yeah.
We got like 6 different systems on the school.
I have a question for Matt. What the stipulations of this grant, which does it stipulate that if we put this, is that just for this system? For a community system? What milestones do they have for that grant?
The constraints on the grant is that they be used for water and wastewater systems in the Mackenzie Valley. That's what the language says, and there's not a lot of additional guiding language in front of the legislature. It's recognized that it was intended for recovery, to support recovery. It's funding the water system replacement in Blue River.
Yeah.
Has funded all the feasibility studies, et cetera, on this septic or this community wastewater system, and it has funded the grants through EWEB for septic repairs.
So there's no, I mean, if we build half a system and just leave it sitting there, there's no stipulations that certain things need to be completed or, but other than.
I'm not aware that they are.
Okay, I'm just.
You have to have the system completed. You just have to be done with the work by September. I think it'd be a good conversation to have with Biz Oregon to see what they're thinking would be about that, since they're the ones that manage the funds. I am aware that the system has to, typically a system like this needs to operate at some level in order for the equipment to not become unusable, but I don't know enough about septic systems.
Right, no, and I'm just asking, I don't want us to get into a situation where there's a bunch of stipulations that we don't, that's my reason for asking.
Thanks, Steve. Go ahead, Jim.
Just have a quick question about permits. If you go out for bid, do you have to, you have to get 3 bids or multiple bids, or can you get away with 1 bid?
If the county's managing it, their bid process, I'm thinking it's 30 days. I don't know what Lane County is, it's 30 days.
Federal dollars.
Yes, and 3 bids, it has to be a public, there's a whole bunch.
So how long does that take?
So that's minimum of 30 days.
Okay.
That's approved. And when you're doing county and, when you're doing county and federal work, Jim?
Okay, gentlemen,
Jim, when you do federal and county work, you bid on the documents that you're given. It's not like you can give them a price and then start adding stuff on. There's real big stipulations and all that stuff. So the bid documents have to be complete and approved. So, and that's just the timeline, so.
So, go ahead, Connie.
Just back to Lane for a little bit, the comment, and I understand wanting enrollment to grow at the school and needing housing for families to come in. I think there's opportunities on the river for housing. I know that there's some constraints like with Lazy Days, but there's still available housing there if they can figure out how to get families in them. I'm not sure about Rose Street, but that's another opportunity for families to come in. I personally don't think that housing is what we need on Three Sisters Meadow. What we need is some sort of commercial entities, because we need jobs, because families aren't going to move up here into a house that's available if they don't have a job. So I think commercial and jobs is a key piece over housing, and I think there's some housing available already.
Go ahead, John.
For housing on the Meadow, I'm just saying that it gives the opportunity.
Yeah.
That would still require the infrastructure that we're trying to get built in by
Well, it's going to
September.
need
Right.
wastewater infrastructure, yes, for anything that's being put on.
Is there any? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering if it's logical with the parameters that we're looking at, since we've got somebody working on plans that'll be done in January, and we think we've got $2 million, and we know until September 29th or whatever to get it done. Is there any way to actually reach out to a contractor that we might ask for a bid and see if it's feasible to do a project for $2 million in 60 days or 6 months? If that's
Not legally.
well, I mean,
You're so bound.
is that something that somebody's been asked? Is this doable, even with all the parameters? We know that there was 3 million, now there's 2 million, now 2.5 million. I understand it's scalable, so if we put in the smallest scale possible of it, would we have time to do that piece and then come back at it later with more money? Would that serve the purpose that we're talking about for replacing the septic tanks at the school and serve their purposes?
Dana, go ahead. Thanks, Jim.
We're not bound by public contracting rules. This group isn't.
No, but the county is, and the county's the one that's doing it.
Yeah, but we can go out and ask Joel, hey, give us an idea what this is gonna cost.
Yeah,
Unless he wanted to potentially bid on it,
Yeah.
and then he would be excluded.
Yeah, now,
That's nothing, and I'm sure that,
So,
sorry, that
The norm-
Dan is doing the
That's the
design,
way-
also have.
Go ahead, Dana, go ahead, Dana. Go ahead.
So if the school district doesn't own it, we're not legally bound to do anything.
well,
Maybe Brandon, you had comments, please.
Just that, sure Dan, the designer, I've heard cost estimates over time. I just haven't heard anything recently that I want to put out there on the table, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they've got that information. It's there. Don't you agree, Matt, that there's a cost estimate with that design?
right,
We still have it at this table.
the engineer, the designer comes up with a number that he thinks is real, and that's up to the
Yeah, Dana?
yeah, and so, you know, a hard number is,
Lane had a
you're
comment.
gonna get a ballpark.
oh, no, I was just agreeing with
Jim?
Steve that it could go over that.
So speaking to the designer, without saying their names, with the water district, they had 50 change orders over a 30-month period. Just, I'm concerned for the district and the community and you, you know, getting in over your head and
It's a little, yeah. I
ended up in
agree.
this thing with,
It's a little
it's
more
not done,
tricky.
and now you go, but who's gonna take it over? Who's gonna pay for to complete it? That's my concern, and I'm not against putting it in, I'm all for it, but I'm concerned that someone's gonna get burnt here in the end.
So just to let you know where we're at, we're at 4 o'clock. So I'm gonna let's kind of tidy up the questions. I know there's a lot of questions. We could do this for the next 2 years, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
And legitimately so, I think. So, but I want to get into an executive session where we can make a decision on this proposal and have some opportunity within that executive session to discuss, and then come back out on the agenda, come back out of that into an open session and do our voting. So if that's good with the good of the order, I think we need to move into that at this point. It gives us a little bit of time. I don't have a problem taking more time if we need to, but I just want to stay within the right parameters of what we set up. So is that good with the order?
Can I just ask a quick question on that $64,000 that MRT is still holding, you said it's to manage the property? Does that mean whoever's putting in the septic system or the waste system to help manage that, or to manage the property to keep it mowed for fire and all of that? What does that mean to manage the property?
Yeah, so the grants, I had to look back in I wrote it because it was like, I don't know, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't know. It's for stewardship, mowing, I mean, there was some
Sure.
infrastructure, we put the gate in, we put, miscellaneous things in, but ongoing stewardship staff person to maintain. And they are paying taxes, I did confirm that, even though MRT is a fellow nonprofit, and the school, there's that, you don't have to. MRT has always made it a policy, they pay taxes on all of their property. I did confirm it's around $1,000 annually.
Are they
So
gonna,
it's just-
did they want reimbursement for those taxes? That was a question that was, I heard in the language.
No, and so essentially it's managing the property.
So it couldn't necessarily be used, say, if the school district does this, and it couldn't be used by the school district then to help pay for what needs to be done for the upkeep of the wastewater system? Is it more for mowing and invasives and that kind of thing? See?
It was pretty open. I mean, there was
So
some
it could be
examples.
used, connected with the wastewater system to help pay that annual cost that's going to be
That's my
there, or
understanding.
not? I mean, that's a concern to me, how it's used and is it used the way it was meant to be used?
Mhm.
It sounds like we don't know the answer to that quite yet, but Brandy can confirm that when it starts. Joel next time.
It's essentially like anything related to the property. So at that time, wastewater.
Okay, so like I say, let's, if we can do this, I move at least that we go into an executive session, which Lane would be recusing himself, am I correct? Brandy is a McKinsey Community Land Trust employee, would be doing the same for the executive session, unless we ask Brandy to be there. Or Jim, for that matter, we can consider Jim being in that executive session. If we do that, Jim, as I understand it, Jim, you would just be there as a resource that we could then ask questions, but you wouldn't be able to engage unless we asked you. Is that the understanding of the group or not?
I don't have any problem with anybody being in the room.
I would entertain a motion to allow Jim and Brandy to stay in here.
And Wayne,
And,
I mean, just,
yeah, he's excused himself from voting like Jim and Brandy, so.
Abstain from any votes, but stay in the room.
I think it might be helpful input, so I'd second that.
So okay, there's been moved and seconded, who moved it? You moved it?
Yeah, I second, so.
Oh,
okay.
I
So
didn't
it's
get
been moved and
that
seconded,
I did.
let's say Dana moved, that, we allow Jim Parks and Lane Tompkins and Brandy, Crawford to be in the executive session.
And of the people
And Matt
online.
Sayre is welcome, obviously as a board member,
Yeah.
a director member, and I guess the rest of us will have to be excluded at this point, and welcome to come back later into the open session. So, Matt, we thank you
Seconded it.
very much.
Yeah, hey, I'm afraid I'm gonna drop a minor wrench into the call or into the conversation. I was just chatting with Rob to try and get good information about the
Yeah.
working estimate for construction. So can I share that with you all?
Yes, please do.
Okay. I was asking about a 10,000 gallon per day system, which isn't the full build out, right? It's just a portion of it. The 10,000 gallon per day version is approximately $3.5 million. And I confirmed with him we have 2.5. So I know that puts a wrench in your whole conversation.
Well, I thank you though, Matt, for that clarification. We'll ponder that and see where it goes. Thank you, I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
That insurance system.
So Matt Sayre, you're welcome to stick in with us.
Same.
We have a vote, we have a motion and a second. We didn't.
We had a motion, thank you for that. We had a motion on the table from Dana that we move into executive session, including Lane Tompkins and Jim Parks and Brandy first.